Very warm welcome to the IPSCA webinar on the customs reform of the EU. We are really pleased to see you here. Webinar agenda is available in the IPSCA community within the chat. I was posting also link where you can find it, just in case if you would like to follow. And we would kindly ask you to fill in the short survey on this event after the meeting, because we are really eager to improve the future webinars, and your feedback will be really helpful for that. Have a very fruitful discussions. Uwe, floor is yours.
Oh, mine. Okay. Yeah, good afternoon to everyone. Again, a customs topic. I did already some of that slides, by the way, on our members meeting in Tanger in Morocco in May. But from that point on, since then, some news came along, and I will concentrate myself today really when I'm talking about the customs reform of the EU. I'm concentrating myself on that well-known EU data hub. What is that? What is it for? How it will functioning? And should we be now a little bit worried about our own industry and how we are going to be connected in that whole discussion first, and then in that data exchange with the EU Customs Data Hub. Before we are jumping into the customs reform and the data hub especially, some very fresh informations about the ICS2 Release 3, which is the part for the maritime and railroad. That means the air cargo is already in action with that ICS2 activities, but some of you have already learned over the time now with the Release 2 and the Release 3 now as well, that there are some issues, especially in the conformance testing and access to the test environments in getting the right help from help desk and support. So some informations in the beginning, there is still that date around us that for the maritime sector, we are talking about dates of that the carriers by themselves, that means the master level, has to be ready until the 4th of December 2024. And then from there on, from that December date, there is another half a year for the house level filers. That means the well-known multiple filing. They have then time until the 1st of April 2025. I have already mentioned that the dates, and back to the current issues, what we have. The issues are obvious when you would sit in front of the EU Commission. What I mean by this is simply you see in their faces that the whole of the motivation is gone. That has several reasons. The change in the higher management of TaxSud was not really helpful for the good mood in the work groups of the Commission. That is the one thing. The other thing is that they are simply also running out of different budgets, and that's why it's at the moment really an issue with resources at EU level. That should be not an excuse. It's simply a fact, what I want to bring over. And especially that combination of having the help desk on the national level and let's say, we were joking last time in a conference, the 4th, the 5th, the 6th level support is then in Brussels. But the problem is simply that between the national help desk and the hotline or the support people in Brussels for the central components are sometimes not replying, no responses to the national level. And then it starts with that blame game, who is really the responsible for not giving in the right time acceptable answers. So it's a terrible game at the moment, what is going on. That means it's takes a lot of time. And when you see simply that we have to be ready, that means the IT side has to be ready until the 4th of December for the carriers, for the master level, and until April 25 for the house level. It is not really a good situation right now, with all that rollout activities and their own plannings on the side of economic operators. What is still also missing is a guidance paper. And normally, a guidance is, some people say it's a soft law, some others say, okay, it's only a guidance. The problem is behind that guidance now for the maritime release, that if you believe it or not, the multiple filer parties, means the house level, they have indicated, and I'm talking about experiences from different IT providers out of different countries of the EU. They have simply went back to their providers and said, we are not willing to come on board and to sign whatever contracts to implement a solution for us if we are not clear on the fact how to deal in each and every step with the process. That means they are waiting for that guidance paper. And the problem is that because of the lack of resources,
destinados para ello, con el fin de que los bloqueen el paso en el extremo de cada coche deben situarse los de mayor volumen y los más pequeños en los cuales
should I continue? Yeah. The lack of the resources on the side of the EU Commission is simply that they are then also telling us in each and every meeting in Brussels that they have postponed the guidance for the maritime again and again because they have simply no time to put it together, which is somehow a kind of very tricky situation in the hamster wheel. The one says we are not getting ready with the guidance, and the other says we are not coming on board with the multiple filing when we don't have the guidance first. It's a little bit like kindergarten, right? But I can understand also the multiple filers because they would like to know exactly what to do in which combination, which reference number has to be in which of the data elements, and so on. So, and how they have to organize themselves. It's really a nightmare at the moment. We will see. I said here in the last bullet point, the electronic customs coordination group meeting is in 2 weeks' time in Brussels. And we will, I'm pretty sure, ask the Commission again to provide us with the guidance for the maritime sector. I can't really tell you now if we will be successful because we asked the Commission 3 or 4 times already. So this is the 3rd or the 4th postponement of the guidance. For the release 2 and the airfield, I can only inform you about this, that of course it's in operation. Of course, there's also multiple filing available. But only one fact now to make us all a little bit smile. A huge number of airlines are not lodging any entry summary declarations for risk purposes at the moment. And there is no consequence. The Commission is simply standing and watching it without big question signs in their faces. And there is no pressure enough in the market to bring all the airlines on board. They simply fly in, and there are no entry summary declarations. And as you all know, I'm pretty sure in the field of e-commerce, the volumes are that tremendous that customs administrations in the member states are simply not in the position to cope with that huge amount of consignments. Normally, they should bring a lot of them on hold, but this is simply not possible. So not so nice. Last but not least, the last point, when there is a question coming out of the market from your clients or maybe from the shipping lines, what will happen when the house level data, that means the carriers are ready with the 4th of December, and they are then lodging via that date or crossing that date into the new year. But the house level is not ready yet until the 2025. is there a consequence or what to do? And the Commission has stated clearly that in that transitional phase, they will not look after that house level, but you have to announce this, that means your clients or the house level filer has to announce that to his local customs authority to get that information, that they can put the information into a central data repository to say, okay, for data and this carrier and this house level filer, they are not ready with the house level, so please don't ask for the house level until really the transition period has ended. So this is the latest information around ICS2 Release 3. I don't know. As you all know, I'm German, and we are well known for our German angst and pessimistic views on the world. And I can support this somehow with my own opinion that we will have maybe somehow a kind of a little chaos next year when we are running out of that deadline of April 25. Okay, let's move on. Now we are in the future of the EU Customs Union. First of all, there is the big question, is there really the need for a reform of the EU Customs Union? And the Customs Union itself celebrated 1 or 2 years ago 50 years of being in place, of being in force. So this is quite a good number of years already. And in the course of that 50 years, there were some changes in the legal situation. We got new customs codes several times. But as you all aware about the fact that we are living in very fast and very dynamic times, the Commission had to do something bigger, not only doing a little adjustment on the legal side or setting up a new customs code, especially the needs around the e-commerce, especially the needs of more safety, especially being more effective by having a limited number of resources in place, and of course, digitalization. These are the main drivers of having an absolutely comprehensive and very a deep reform of the customs union. Let's have a look. As I said, volumes, e-commerce, growing number of standards and legal requirements. I'm pretty sure some of you have heard about also the CBAM regulation, which came a little bit from the side to customs people. CBAM is the customs border adjustment mechanism. And these are all requirements. Also, of course, more trade facilitation, safety, security requirements to build up the systems in another way, streamline the processes, go for more harmonization, all that nice political phrases and buzzwords. When we look now on the history, what happened around that customs reform, so where do we come from? I can proudly say that we were, as IPCSA, a part of that well-known EU Customs Union 2040 foresight group, which was somehow the base element for creating the right content for the ongoing or the further discussions around what to put into a reform, what are really the key elements we have to have an eye on, and what can be what are the scenarios for the future where the customs union of the EU has to take care of. So really the Foresight Initiative in 2019 was the base element, and then the findings and the work of that Foresight Initiative group was handed over back to the Commission, and the Commission established then a new group, a new tool, I always used to joke on this because they were that brave enough and that self-confident to call themselves the wise person group. This wise person group was made of some politicians and some people from the field. That means customs people, but from the higher management. So you can also think by yourself what is then in the quality of the work of such a group, because it's too high level, let's say. But the advantage is, of course, that they have the power to talk to ministers, to presidents, and so on. So that's why this level was then somehow the continuation of that Foresight Initiative group. The outcome of this group was that they formulated some recommendations to, as I said, political leaders and decision makers, to get them on board and to make the right steps and the right progress on creating then a reform paper. And there we are. A reform paper was created. Was really it is a legal draft, a so-called Reform Act. And this Reform Act was finished in 2023, the first draft of it, and then handed over to from the Commission, because the Commission, the EU Commission, is the part of who is in charge of creating legislation, and then they hand it over to the Parliament for discussion. That means the Parliament then has to agree in a voting on if there is a need of adjustment, or can we accept the draft or that final text, and then it will be handed over back to the Commission, and then last but not least to the Council of the EU. What is now the content? What are the key elements of our customs reform? First of all, we have an EU customs agency. This is one of the key elements. The discussions were coming up immediately to say, so all the customs organizations, all the customs services of the 27 member states will now go hand in hand together, having one uniform, one type of administration, and so on. No, this is a misunderstanding. We will have a new level, which is, if you wish, so a federal level. That means there is a new customs agency, and the role of this, or the tasks of this, is on the one hand to take care about an harmonized interpretation and application of the customs legislation across the whole of the EU. On the other hand, they will take over some operational activities. For instance, they will be responsible for that well-known EU data hub. This is then the second bullet point. That means, coming back to that one customs service or customs agency, it will remain that we have at the end 27 customs organizations, customs services around the EU. So starting from Estonia up to Spain, Portugal, each and every member state will still have his own customs service. But there is somehow a mediator, if you wish, so on top or operated on EU level, who will take care about different tasks to support that customs services, but also to take an eye on that trade facilitation is handled in the right way and also in a compliant way. I say it now like this. Then we have, as I said, the EU Data Hub, and I'm not telling you now something about this. Let's move on, and hopefully we'll, not hopefully, in the next slides you will understand what the Data Hub is about. So no details now. Another key element is a new partnership with trade, that is the so-called trust and check traders. Also here we can put a little bit of smile on our faces, because at the end of the day it's a kind of new AEO program, and it's not like that we complained in the past to say, okay, please make it happen that a lot of companies are able to fulfill the criteria for getting an AEO status. It is more the other way around to make it more difficult again, and trust and check traders are on a much higher level of requirements when it comes to being a really good friend of customs administrations. So not really a step forward in promoting AEO programs for the market. It is more a step into making life more complicated and giving customs administrations the possibility to put higher requirements and higher conditions on economic operators when it comes to really simplified procedures. Then we have a comprehensive single window environment. This is already working and in place, but it is growing and growing. As you all know, also that IPCSA is there presented or represented by myself in the work groups with the single window. That means that environment is really going on, or as I said, already in operation in some of the member states, and step by step it will be introduced in all of the 27 member states. The background of that single window approach is that customs is more or less the pool keeper, or that one single point of collecting the data for all the administrations or all the parties who are somehow involved in that border clearance process. The EU is having an own acronym for it. It's the PCAs, not PCS, PCAs. Partner competent authorities, starting from health up to veterinary, phytosanitary guys, and so on and so forth. But it's also export control institutions or administrations. They are they are responsible for taking a look or having an eye on what you are producing and exporting, from weapons up to very dangerous goods and so on. So these are all somehow connected. The thing is, and this is a little bit the difficulty in the EU, that we have a number of harmonized permits, licenses, what the EU is have harmonized over the years and is monitoring by themselves. But then you have another level, which is still the national level. And to give you a little bit of flavor, on the EU level, harmonized permits, licenses, we have round about something between 40 to 50. And only in a member state like Germany, we have, in addition, on national level, I hope you are having a strong seat now, 600 additional documents. You see the difficulty behind that when the Commission is integrating that functionalities and promoting it as a comprehensive single window. Then you have still the question in the room, and what is with the national level? Are they going to exchange also everything digital then amongst on the national level amongst the agencies and administrations in all of that member states? So this will be a challenge for the next years, that also the national level is ready with all their digital environments. Then there will be a new e-commerce package integrated in that reform. Up to now, only to mention in some short phrases, up to now we have a threshold of 150 euros. That means consignments under that threshold are they can use a reduced data set to lodge their information to customs for the purpose of clearance. And they are, of course, waived from paying the customs duties. They are not waived from the VAT, but from customs duties. And as I said, the declaration is more or less an easygoing one. I'm not going to tell you that even then there are huge problems, not only because of the volume. The huge problems are coming also from the quality of data, especially commodity code and goods description. because, to be honest, even if you are not required to pay customs duties, customs is doing risk analysis and risk checks. And I can tell you out of my own experiences from the air cargo field related to e-commerce, it's a nightmare what data you are getting. It is true that 98% of the data set is okay, but the missing 2% are the crucial ones, as I said, commodity code and goods description. And this is what is really a challenge at the moment for customs. And that's why the Commission started also to rethink their e-commerce package. So in the future, there will be no threshold anymore. So you have to lodge a customs declaration for each and every consignment, even if it's under 150. It will remain with a reduced data set, but they are already talking about to pump up that reduced data set in a certain way. And what they learned on EU side, or together with the member states administrations, that they are willing to don't ask after very deep commodity codes. That means 10 or 11 digits in some of the member states, maybe only 8 or 6 digits. We will see how that will end up in practice. A very interesting discussion went then on around temporary storage. And I will come to that later on, but I can tell you in the very beginning, the draft of the Reform Act was made up in a way that the legislator said he expects a customs declaration for placing the goods under a customs procedure already after 3 days. So today, all in the EU, you have that 90 days period of temporary storage possibility, and then you can, within that 90 days, think what to do with your consignments, transshipment or free circulation, or you put it on a customs warehouse and so on and so forth. And they wanted to reduce that 90 days to 3 days only, but there was an intervention from the Parliament to bring back that 90 days. But you will learn in the course of my presentation or webinar today that there are other tiny little changes which may have an impact on the organizational flow in future when it comes to temporary storage. And that means for us as PCS and single window operators, that we have to sit down together with our stakeholders in the ports, the terminal operators and so on, and find a way or talk to them if they have the same interpretation that there has to be a change in the organizational flow. But as I said, I will explain that a little bit later, again in detail. And then last but not least, of course, more technology support, AI for more effective controls, risk management. A lot of customs administrations now went on to follow that recommendations from the past to go in a common control approach. That means together with the other competent authorities, they are willing to make one control and one control place. You can imagine when you go in a port like Rotterdam, like Antwerp, Hamburg, then with the veterinary, sometimes you have the veterinary sitting outside of the port. You have to leave the port area, then you come back to the port and so on. And this is really something what was not really nice for the whole of the flow, especially then also for your customs activities, opening up maybe a transit, closing the transit, and so on and so forth. So let's move on. Let's say something to IMCO and Hungarian presidency. This is with regard to the customs reform, interesting, or as I said, also of importance, because first of all, the draft of the reform paper was handed over to the Parliament, and the Parliament they have a construction which is the Internal Market Committee, IMCO, and this Internal Market Committee took a lot of time to read that draft and to make adjustments. As I said before, in my example with the temporary storage, they were the ones who put that 90 days back into the legislation. So they did a lot of amendments, adjustments, requests of change. You will see also in the course of my presentation, I will then mention the IMCO once again. It's not everywhere a nice change, by the way, or a nice request of change. In a lot of the cases, it was, obvious that it is necessary to do so. But in other cases, especially when it comes to dates and deadlines, you will see that the parliament is not really patient enough and do not, from my point of view, do not really understand what it means to introduce in a short couple of years such big IT solutions and IT infrastructure. Why now Hungary? Since the 1st of July this year, Hungary is in the seat of the presidency, so it means they are leading the EU Council at the moment for half a year. So we are already near to this end of September. But one of the major tasks of the Hungarian presidency when it comes to customs was that Hungary has really announced that they would like to finalize that draft reform paper into a final one. That means together with the parliament, as I said, there is a voting process and the voting comes back. The voting has not yet been finished simply because you all know we have a new EU Commission, we have new political leaders, so everybody was now waiting for that new setup of the Commission after the European elections in June. And also the parliament was then, of course, elected in a new way. So the structure is now, from the political point of view, has changed a little bit. And that's why they were waiting to do the final voting also for that reform paper. But this is now one of the main tasks of the Hungarian presidency to bring that to a final stage.
Uwe, can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Do you think the other member states will grant it to Hungary to make the most significant change to the EU pillars, given the geopolitical situation and the position of Hungary? I don't want to make it too political, but I think everybody is delaying this.
There is already some, how to say it, some activities behind the curtains or behind the scenes that, as you know, Poland is one of the next ones. And we, for instance, from trade or the trade associations are approaching now more the Polish presidency to help us in lobbying because on the one hand, Hungary has really put that task as number one task. So they are working now very close together with the parliament to bring it really to a final stage. But that doesn't mean that then, even if you have a final text, maybe there is an additional voting or whatever. What I have to clarify is the Hungarians by themselves, they are not adjusting. They are simply trying to coordinate the different parties. That means the Commission, Council, the Parliament, to come to a final agreement. And I think you can answer now your question by yourself. If the member states are not willing, and we have still also the council in front of us, so the parliament is not the final stage, then not willing to accept that paper as it is, then the next presidency and maybe the next presidency is opening up again and again.
Poland will be a nice place to celebrate.
You mean what?
No, I mean, if the Polish are given this success, this breakthrough, I think the other 26 will be more likely to give Poland the success than Hungary with Mr. Orbán and his friends. I think there's a delay tactic behind it, but it just says something about the introduction dates and stages and.
Okay. I think now that we should discuss that bilaterally. Why I say that to you, as you know, and the other colleagues know that I'm half Hungarian, and my wife is Hungarian, but we as a family we are not at all a supporter of Mr. Orban. So I fully understand what you try to bring over, also between the lines, because he is well known for it to make his own marketing then out of these things, and hopefully because the Polish are fortunately they got with the new government a totally other political system than before. So keep the fingers crossed. Okay, can we move on, or some questions still, or remarks to the Hungarian presidency? Nani, do you want to
No, I don't have a
hand
question
over
there.
something?
No,
hand
I was
over
just
something to-
asking
Yeah.
about the e-commerce package. I was just wondering when because it's all about the reporting formalities and a certain role, you have to report a certain set of data. But in the e-commerce, what is the first moment when the complete data set is available in the chain?
Okay. We come to that. Hopefully, I can give you the answer when we are in the EU Data Hub environment. Okay, so in the next slides. But I'm happy to take your remarks to Mr. Orban personally, if you wish, sir. All right. EU Data Hub. Here we are. So I did that joke already in Tanja in May, but I don't know if it will work. It exists already, but not the EU Data Hub as such. It's the UCC Data Hub exists. As you can see, United Church of Christ Data Hub. That means, by the way, it was not that I investigated now in the net if that one exists or not. It was the Commission by themselves. And they presented it on a conference, on a meeting in Brussels. And you can imagine there was a good mood moment in that meeting when everybody saw that the EU data, or the data hub, not the EU, the data hub is already existing for the UCC, but not for that UCC. So, two major dates for the EU Data Hub. We have a date 2028 and we have a date 2032, which is maybe now something new to you, because we were talking about in the beginning 2038, then somebody said 2034, and now we have a new date 2032. Where does it come from? And I have also indicated here the article of the legislation. Let's try to jump there. Hopefully he's doing his job. Article 265 of the current draft of the Reform Act says, under number 3, the functionalities of the EU Customs Data Hub laid down in Article 29 shall be fully operational by 31st December 2032. It was originally 2037 here. So the IMCO, that means that committee of the parliament, they adjusted now that date from 37 to 32, which is, I guess, helpful for all that IT people in around customs in the member states, that they are absolutely motivated and jumping up with the EPA, that the parliament was stealing from them 5 years of time. When you see also the other dates, I'm not going now article by article, but you see here's when you would look into the paper itself, then here was originally 2028. It was reduced to 2026, the same here. So the parliament did some slight adjustments, and here the last one was start fulfilling their reporting obligations. And this is what you were asking now, Nana. Economic operators may start fulfilling their reporting obligations under this regulation by using the data hub from the 1st of January 2029. There was originally 32 in, and then because everybody was talking about 28 for the e-commerce area, the parliament decided to take out the 32 and go really on that 2028. But again, here, the difference between number 3 and 4 is not only the date, it is also the shall to may. So here you have really no chance anymore. You have to be in real operation. And under number 4, those ones who are willing and ready, they can fulfill their reporting obligations from the 1st of January by using the data hub. Is that an answer to your question? It will create anyway also then maybe a little chaos, because some of the players are willing to do or are ready, others not. What that means for really logistics operations in the different airports and ports or airports, this is, I can't tell you that. It's a little bit like the English model, try and error, which is not really good for this process, to be honest. I ask you now, Nanne, is that somehow an answer to your question?
No, it is. Reverse thinking is, of course, when you have all the data and you provide it to the customs, either nationally or in the data hub, you're willing to give it. So not when do I have to, but hey, I have it. Here it is, everything. Yes. But okay. Are they able to deal with it themselves? Then will you get a response back? I think that's.
Yeah, these dates are indicated here are in the legislation. So we all know legislation is, we have to be compliant with the legislation, blah, blah, so on and so forth. But the legislator is very often forgetting about the practicalities. And I will come at the end of my presentation to a statement which shows you that everything what I told you before about the EU Data Hub is all the official part now. And there is, of course, something going on which is called the rumors in Brussels. And then we can talk or discuss maybe again if that EU Data Hub will come as they indicated it, or as it is officially promoted, or will it more be another thing of data exchange, which is maybe not totally that what all the officials are telling us when it comes to that topic of the EU Data Hub. I move on. I told you already that there will be a construction, a higher level of the AO program, the Trusted Trader. And for those guys, it will be possible to be directly connected to the EU Data Hub with, going more to a push instead of a pull mechanism. It means they really, no, it has to be the other way around. I do again that mistake, because nowadays, as you know, you have in the legislation, you have to send in a declaration, you have that and that data with the declaration, that and that papers, and there is a time where the legislator says, in that and that moment, please lodge a declaration. So you pull it then, push it then into the systems of customs, and customs is giving you then whatever information back or decisions back. But in the future, and this is what I have to correct here on the slides, in the future, it will be possible that customs is also pulling information. But as Nanne already said in his statement, it will be more that all the parties involved can put some information onto the data hub, and then the national authorities are pulling it out of that data hub. So it's not really a pull mechanism in the understanding that a customs service will look into our systems by themselves via, I don't know what agreed interfacing. It is really that first the data has to be in the data hub, and then the administrations are going to pull out of that data hub the information. So the data hub acts as a central repository. Yeah, a little bit similar to that what we know and have in the ICS environment with the risk central repository. This is what the data hub is really acting. So it means also that, and this is a little bit now or already in the direction of that rumors, that the member states are not giving up their national clearance systems. Maybe some of them, maybe little players, I don't know, Luxembourg, or maybe some countries in the Baltics, but even they have already indicated that they don't see really a big advantage in having a central EU data hub, because you have to take in consideration on the member state level that the member states acting under one legislation, under one harmonized legislation, true, but they have a different setup in the member states when it comes to processes, when it comes to national activities and so on. That will still remain also after that dates when we will have the EU data hub. Yeah, only for your information, I pointed that out in one of the meetings. I got a huge support from our friends from other associations. We need a work group because the problem is here the same like with the maritime single window. The Commission did not really went out to ask for a proper analysis or to ask how the different setups in the member states are really made. And to be honest, that should not be a problem for a data exchange mechanism. But this is also, I take that also out of the question from Nana, or the statement from Nana. We are looking then for status information for trigger events. We have set up our systems, PCSs, single window solutions around Europe in a certain way. We agreed on with which information is then, which information is the trigger for the next event into the direction maybe of customs or other players. So we have to rethink that doing. Is that still valid then when there is an EU data hub there? Which information and which status information and events are on the side of customs then available? And what can be played back to us as necessary information to make our flows not breaking at the wrong in the wrong stage? Yeah. So also one thing, what is the EU Data Hub saying is we are going to have a data collection from other sources. All right. Other sources. So that means there is a kind of a new mechanism which is called also in the legislation that is not in the customs code right now. It will be done with the new reform package. They call it advanced cargo information. This is what we may know out of other, let's say, the air cargo section and so on, that there is already something, but only for risk purposes. In the future, that advanced cargo information will be really then reused for the purposes of the customs clearance process. But that also indicates that you have a number of different players, a shipping line from Vietnam, a shipper or a forwarder from China, an airline from the US. So they are all able, I'm not saying that they have to, they are able to give that advanced cargo information to that data hub. And you see already the difficulty in this is a little bit to bring it on the right understanding who is responsible for the data in front of customs in the EU and who can provide data or will provide data. Also, what I will tell you that then in the next slides. Also, what we have to take, or we should discuss, is that very nice, text, or that very nice ideas. What is really meant by when the Commission is saying we are going to provide a central EU data hub? You see in number 1 of the Article 29 of that Reform Act, there is a list of functionalities of the EU Data Hub, what they are going to integrate and provide. And then number 3 says nicely, the Commission shall develop, implement, and maintain the EU Customs Data Hub, including making publicly available, blah, blah, blah. For me, more interesting is that maintain the EU Customs Data Hub, because the old discussion, what we have and what we learned really with hurting moments with the ICS2 environment means that the help desk still stays on the national side. So we have, again, that mistake that each and every country is then, or that the economic operators from Romania, they go to their national help desk to ask them for solving some problems on the EU Data Hub, and then they will move on and contact then the next level in Brussels to get that problem solved. And we see that is a lively discussion at the moment in Brussels, because the Commission is always saying, we have already some experiences with ICS2, and everybody is laughing loud because it's not working properly. So this is really a part of discussion where we say, okay, normally help desk activities are under that maintenance topic. Also to give you a little bit an idea, the Commission was stating in one of the meetings last time that the Commission is not an operational body. Okay, but when you write down that you want to maintain the EU Customs Data Hub, you have to think about the fact that you are going to be an operational body in the future. So then the next slides are directly from the Commission.
Uwe, can I ask another question? Sorry to do it. So the feasibility of this, because I remember very well when I was still on the passenger side of the airport business, which was 14, 15 years ago, there was a border innovation management program for passengers. Same thing happened, something central use program, 1 billion euro investment. At that time, this feasibility of who will maintain, who's responsible for this work, was also a showstopper. What do you think? What do you think about the feasibility of all this kind of recommendations, legislations, etc., etc.?
You are asking now a very, very hard question, because how to say it? We see that now in that blame game with the ICS. So it's not really sorted out. The Commission is putting the fingers on the member states. The member states are putting the fingers back. Sometimes it's to give you a nice example. Somebody went out to a help desk in his national environment. They took the ticket, or they gave him a ticket in the ticketing system. And then they went back with the answer and said, sorry to tell you, we had to forward that request to the central part because we do not see the message you have exchanged, because you did it on a central way. That means the Commission was expecting that the help desk on the national side is dealing already with some activities around hotline support and so on, but did not give the member states a possibility to access the central repository for that purposes. What is that, please? So, back to your question, feasibility. I think we all will have really gray hairs when we meet up finally to say, okay, and the discussion will be still going on with the member states in the direction of the Commission, if it works really well. I'm coming back to the rumors. The EU Data Hub is a huge thing, but when I understood that right now, they are more and more, recognizing on the side of the Commission that it will not get that support also from the member states. So the member states still will stay on their national environments. They have then somehow, if it's an API at the end, whatever interfacing to that EU Data Hub, the Data Hub will only act for as a central repository to collect that data. And at the end, the member states will take out the data of that big whatever and take it into their national environment to make then the decisions there. I was asking some member states if they are happy to have, let's say, a graphic user interface and to do direct the work on the EU Data Hub in which format ever. And they said no. Maybe some are convinced, but others say no, we are not going to do this.
It sounds also as if the thinking has been a bit caught up with technology, because the European data strategies of federated are keep data at source and only exchange what's necessary. So hence the question.
I think they did. The biggest mistake is again that they came up with something nice, out of that wise person group, without talking to the member states first. I'm not talking about us as trade. That would be much more nicer. But they even forgot about the member states to ask them what should be an architecture of the whole thing about. And they came then along with their proposal, and then they put it in front of the member states. And there are member states, they do simply not understand what the heck, what is it? What are we going to do? I have here examples from member states. They are complaining to me and say, do you really need that on your side as economic operators? I said, this is not the point, but why do you ask? Because we can tell you our president or our minister of finance took budget away from us because of saving money in the budget. We can't do anything for the next years in addition to what we are doing right now. Nice, isn't it? I come, by the way, to the numbers in the course of, with some other slides or some other information at the end. So you see what they want to create. On the one hand, a data portal for, with SMEs, for larger filers, a direct connection, a message channel, and for that trust and check parties, that AEOs, then push-pull combined possibility into that data hub. And then, as you can see, the green block is then the supervision and decision process of the member states, but more they do it then in their national environment and put that information into the data hub. So we are creating another layer. It means also something what you have asked, Nanne. The decision is then made, let's say, in Poland by the Polish customs, in the Polish customs clearance system. And then in parallel, this information goes out to the data hub. And then the data hub is going to send you that information, customs release information to, let's say, the port in Rotterdam or whatever for the consignment. It's, I don't know if that is really a way forward to make it very effective. Let's move on. What is interesting on that slide? These are typical slides of, bringing nice pictures into the game. By the way, I was asking the Commission in one of the meetings if we can send out as IPCSA an invoice for intellectual property things, because when you look with a very calm view on the things, then you end up to say, all right, the whole EU Data Hub, how it is planned and how they are willing to to set it up is a PCS for customs. More or less it is. They are also willing to accept different formats. I wonder if they are happy to have then Excel files in the e-commerce where you have, I don't know, 260,000 consignments in an Excel file. But they said so that they are willing to also to take each and every format of information, then they are going to convert that for the member states. But of course, again, when it comes to that B2G, how far is the Commission willing to go with the exchange of data, vice versa? That means bring everything in, we give it to the member states, and the member states then are going to decide and do that steps in the process. But are we also willing to send back information to economic operators in the proper way, or only a few which are connected somehow to that customs process? One moment. The dog wanted to leave. So, what is very interesting on that slide from my point of view, and you can tell me if I'm right, yes or no, is that real-time data access for member states of entry, member state transit destination, member state of establishment. What is the definition for real-time data access in the meaning of the member states for customs purposes? This definition is not, I couldn't find it. Somebody from the Commission said it's only a legal phrase. You have to be able to provide the data to customs. Yeah. But I know I learned out of discussions with customs administrations that some of them are already interpreting that real-time data access as you have to open up an interface with us, and you have to make it possible for us that we can access your systems somewhere in the middle of the night. Okay, congratulations. And you're doing this then with a harmonized interface on your local environment, or is it then really company by company? So you see, there is every time when we have that discussion, there is still that difficulty, and the legal people or also the technical people of the Commission, they say, yeah, this is not an issue. I said, it is, because there is, again, the door open for interpretation what real-time data access really means at the end in practical terms. Moving on. So here's first of all, before we are going through that slides, I'm not going to explain all the slides. You can take a look on them then when you have a little bit more time. One clear statement of the leading business architect of the EU Data Hub from the Commission. He said last week that the Commission has at the moment not a final idea how the system will look like totally. We have a rough structure, we have a rough architecture, but we do not know how we are going to develop it finally, also with connecting to the member states. So don't expect now from me the reading in the crystal ball, it will be like this, it will be like this. We will use this and this database. We will, of course, the services are running in clouds. And there will be API connection possibilities, but as I said, also other interfaces where are possible. Web services, I can move on here, you will see that a bit. Yeah, here. Web services, APIs, a web portal, mobile applications. This is everything what they plan to have. Also, when you see here for the message channel of the trust and check parties, that they are still on the blockchain idea to make that happen. So there is a lot of what they have planned, a lot what they have drawn on their landscape. I had a short conversation with that guy who is the business architect in a coffee break, and he said it is for him it's a dream job to do this, simply because the commission went out and told that IT group or that IT guys, whatever comes to your mind, put it down, and we will look afterwards if it's, I use now your word, Nana, if it's feasible, yes or no. And of course, when you are as an IT architect, you have a free hand to create your planet of paradise. Then you start by put this in, put that in. We make it like this, does this, and at the end, they realize that it is that costly and that complicated to bring it across to the member states, that we are starting now to shrink functionalities or shrink the scope more and more to a more meaningful one. So then, of course, also for us in the data pipe and PCS operators, they will, I guess, then amongst that companies who are the ones for being connected via data pipes, hopefully. But you see, yeah, we have to sit down with them to talk about events because, again, also out of the legislation, we all know how it works today. So you have an arrival notification, you have a presentation notification, you have a temporary storage declaration, you have your customs procedure at the end. And is that then really the same process in the future when we are talking about the data hub? I can tell you not, because already the temporary storage declaration will no longer be alive in the way we are knowing it right now. It will be, yeah, done in a more other way, or let's say when the data, also again, Nana, you said it, when I have all the data and I put that data in the EU data hub, then in advance, then they have it already also for the purposes of a temporary storage, if you wish so. So why should I then ask for another temporary storage declaration? That makes sense.
Can I make one remark? I'm not saying here is the data to the central hub. I would say, as a member state or economic operator, here is my data in a federated way. If we allow under the authorizations, etc., come and get the data that you need for the central job. So that's something else. Then give all the data to the central hub, and from there get it back. No, I would say leave the data at source, and you need to know what the hub needs to have. And if that's clearly defined, what is the role of the hub and the value add of the central authority, I don't think if that's a value add would be a problem to member states. But today it's like passing on the data into the black hole, and you don't know what will be done with the data. So I think there's the fundamental design mistake in the design, right?
When you remember back what I said, that you have that three players, the SMEs, you have the trust and check parties, and you have that data pipe people, let's say, or the bigger filers. Then from my understanding, out of the not what is technically possible, simply from the legal aspect, the trust and check parties, that means the high sophisticated AEOs, they can take advantage from that, what you were now saying, that the customs is then going to you and also pulling out data by request. That means, okay, we need still this and this, can you please so and so. So, but this is limited onto that trusted and check party. So we have the next problem. So the technology behind that is available, yes, and also already the legal thinking, but they have limited that onto the sophisticated AEOs. Now we can discuss for the next hour if that is on purpose because of giving the right quality to an AEO status, yes or no, or is that simply the missing of an opportunity. Yeah. I move on. Then they have other things in addition, because of course they then also provide services to the member states when it comes to the API programming and developing, because they see themselves then as a service institution for the member states, not for us, for the member states, but also that I don't know. It's that has to be answered by the member states by themselves if they are fine with such an idea. Oh yeah, this was a little bit. Yeah, no. Okay, I have to come back with this. So, I see. I took the slide from the commission and I have not tried it out. Showing you one example of the EU Commission created by the legal people, by the way, with with the different steps of how the EU Data Hub will go on the process point, from the process point of view. The problem why I took that example to show you, this is number 1A example, means the very first example what the Commission presented to the economic operators. And I'm not taking this example to show you simply what is happening. I want to take that example to show you how strange the Commission is in their planning. So they went out and gave us that example. They were very proud to present that to us in the trade contact group meeting. And for all those of you who are very good customs people, the example is goods released to free circulation in a member state of, now I can't see it because I have my, and they used the customs procedure 42. I can tell you out of my feeling and experiences, we are talking here with that example about a use case in the customs world of maybe 1% of all the customs clearance activities. And this is example number 1. So we were sitting there and we were looking on the commission and said, okay, you want to motivate us to bring this nice thing into the market. And you start with an example which covers 1% of the clearance activities. Nobody will take that example as a serious one for, being motivated to talk lively about that data hub. And there are also some slight little interesting things in where you say, okay, this is, I would not say a mistake, but we would like to understand that a little bit more. Because at the end of the day, we have to create our processes from the logistics side, from the private side, according to this. And that's why is my question sign here. You see, unloading in the member state B. So that means there was an arrival in member state A, freight remain on board, and it went to member state B. And then they unloaded it in member state B, and the member state B then carried out more or less the clearance process steps. When you ask me now, why did the Commission did that with that example, I can tell you, and for those ones who are familiar with our port activities in Europe, it was on request of the Belgian presidency. They were before the Hungarians this year. And they asked the Commission, can you please create some examples? We give you input. And when you know this, then you understand why they came up with that example as number 1 example, because that is a typical example out of the maritime ports in the West. That means Antwerp and also Rotterdam, to bring in goods and simply not clear the goods immediately in their ports, but bringing them out with transit or whatever into other member states, which is an absolutely clear process because of the destination states of that goods. Absolutely, this is not a critical point, but simply you understand when you go out to all the economic operators in a meeting with an example which is not really valid for the most of them. So back in the member state B, we are unloading the goods, and then everything starts with notifying the party there of the arrival of the goods. And again, in some ports, we have the unload message is the trigger event for the unload message in the terminal is the trigger event for sending out a temporary storage declaration or a presentation notification together with temporary storage declaration. In the future, it will be only that arrival notification. This is what was indicated. Arrival notification is enough. And then, of course, they have the advanced cargo information in the systems. They are going to bring that two together, arrival of the goods and so on. So I asked myself, what is really the data set of the arrival notification today? And there is a lot of information absolutely missing what customs needs for monitoring the goods in the ports. So I assume, or I have somehow the thinking that they are starting then in the next years also to extend some messages with more and more data elements. And that's why I went here to look again into the legal text of that reform proposal. And then, we start with confusion a little bit. Where the customs authorities or other legislation applied by the customs authorities so requires the carrier shall present the goods brought into the customs territory upon their arrival. So there is still a presentation, but only when customs requires it. Then you go to number 3, and there it says, goods presented to customs shall not be removed. Okay, but also number 2, customs authorities shall require the carrier to present the goods and provide the advanced cargo information referred to better, where this information has not been provided. So there has to be a clarification still if this number 2 is only valid in that combination presentation and advanced cargo is not, information is not lodged beforehand, or have they created now an issue with, where customs requires, but in the next number they require it. So what is then how we are going to send over a presentation notification, or, and this is the other thing, what I have as an outcome as a result of this, do we have to adjust our processes in that ports where we have connected to the unload message the presentation notification? So is it then really that this is no longer necessary and we simply say it's unloaded, but with the unload message, we are going now to make the arrival notification and not the arrival notification before the unloading? You see, there is a lot of still open points to discuss. So open questions around the EU Data Hub is really the architecture. That means the final one with all the aspects, who is going to share with whom what. And from the deployment side, it's not that we wanted to be involved in it, but there is a big request from the economic operator side that we should establish or come together in work groups. The Commission is open to this, but it's always a difficulty who you are going to select in, how many of that guys. Do we need only IT people? No, of course not. We need also people from the ground who are knowing the process and so on. So we are right now in the stage of negotiating what the Commission is willing to do with us in the next few months, years, to work with us from the economic operator side together to have a proper understanding of the processes and how the EU data hub should look like. Then there is a clear discussion. They don't want to have a declaration anymore, so it's more data set. Okay, we told that since years on each and every stage, we were at forget about declaration, talk about data sets. That's fine, but the legal construction is still, yeah, talking about declarations. But at the end, there is a little mechanism in that Reform Act which says declarations only for transition time. And when then the EU Data Hub is in full operation, we are no longer talking about
Okay.
declarations or notifications. Yes? Yes? Hello? Are you still with me?
We lost you for a moment, but everything is back. Everything is
Okay.
okay.
So I hope with the declarations that was clear. So that is a little bit that approach, really collecting whatever data you have with whatever mechanism. Then they will have in place, really asking for. We need still some other information. We need this information, that information. But they will move away from that construction of a declaration. So in the legal text, also they say the importer and exporter has to submit or make available the information which is required by customs. So it's no longer in the legal text that they say the declarant has to lodge a declaration. Yeah, still the discussion who will be then the final operator, what is really the member state's role, how it looks like with the national environments in the future, how the member states are going to connect themselves to that data hub, yes or no. And for us, the most important thing is really the exchange of that status informations plus the accepting our trigger events, or not accepting our trigger events, but somehow talking to us what should be the right trigger event to bring which information to customs to go to the next level of the steps that they are then searching again in their big central repository after the next part of the information. Then there is, of course, in the advanced cargo information, that is Article 80, there is also in the Article 80 listed that they would like to have a unique identifier. This is also a lively discussion because the IT people, I'm not surprised, are not really keen to see a definition for a unique identifier from a legal point of view. They would like to simply have that the legal people, they give in the legal text a phrase which says you need to have a reference where all the data can be somehow brought together or merged to one big data set, which is for the consignment. However, it looks like, I say now something, a unique load device number, a container number, whatever we have at the end, the IT people are fine with it. I'm not saying now fine with it does not mean that they have a clear idea already how they bring that different data then together, with not having one unique identifier across all the parts of that lodging parties. That means when the forwarders from China are simply sending in their information, how do they then really find it and bring it to the rest of the information for that one clearance process? This is not yet finally, how to say it, agreed on EU level. Then there is an issue of responsibilities. It's clear in the legal text, importer, exporter has all the responsibilities. But what does that mean in practical life? So has the importer and the exporter, do they have the power in each and every moment of the supply chain steps to how to say, to influence whatever party to lodge the information on behalf of them and the right information? I think that will be also something what has been discussed more in detail with the Commission. And you see now with also looking again on the next bullet point with full operation 2032 for the whole of the EU data hub, with all that little nice services and activities and functionalities. Simply when it comes to that, who is responsible for what and how much I'm allowed to amend my data afterwards, that will be one of the essential questions at the end. Yeah, you can be really secure and safe that all the data related to that one consignment imported into the EU has all that information is right and from the right sources and with the right background. I think this is something what quality of data discussion is since years going on. Then, as I said already before, definition of real-time access. And now let me tell you a few things about costs and again versus the timeline. We are right now in the customs program for the EU 2027. That means it started in 2020 and it is always covering a period of 7 years. For the last budget period, that means until 2020, the EU had available for TaxSud and activities around TaxSud around about 500 million euros for 7 years. Then they realized that because of the number of the IT projects they have to introduce and implement, a number of 500 million will not at all sufficient enough. So they increased and doubled the budget for that customs program 2020 to 2027 up to nearly 1 billion. So we are talking about 900 million something for 7 years again. This is only the budget on the side of the member states, on the side of the Commission, sorry. The member states, they have to plan their own resources, their own budget and so on. Only to give you somehow an idea, to have a clear understanding, when we are talking about 900 million for 7 years for EU customs, that sounds now as a huge amount of money. But Frontex, the institution for securing the EU borders, with having not really the right legal power to do a lot as an institution, they have a budget of 800 million for each and every year. So when you simply compare that two with each other, there is a huge mismatch between what is given to TaxSud, to the customs people for their projects and for maintaining or building up new central solutions. So this is the actual, these are the actual numbers. And now we are coming to the costs of only the EU data hub, including the EU new agency, because as I said, some of the tasks will be under the rooftop of that new agency related to the data hub. The costs for this are planned from the year 2028 to 2034. That means that is then the next 7 years, so 2027 to 2034. The budget or the cost for the EU data hub in the official papers is 1.8 billion euros. So I say it again. Now in 2020 to 27, we have for the whole of the 7 years a budget available around about 950, 960 million. In the next customs program for the next 7 years, only the EU Data Hub will hit with a cost of 1.8 billion. Now I can tell you the rumors say already, they are talking already about 2.7 billion. And we are not talking yet about what the national authorities are going to invest. There is, of course, in the impact assessment on the side of the EU also a phrase or a chapter which deals with the savings in the next years. The Commission says that there is an estimated number of 21 billion euros savings on the side of the member states over a course of 15 years. The calculation is not published where they have that 15 million from, 21 million from, billion, sorry, not million, billion from, but the member states have their doubts because they have still maintained their national environment because of a lot of national specialities. So when you have simply that numbers in front of you, then you can ask yourself again, do we or will we have a functioning and a full operational EU data hub in 2034? Knowing now the numbers, what the investment for it is, even that there is, let's say we are agreeing on the savings, even then there has to be someone who is going to invest that money to make that EU data hub running. And it is only the EU data hub. We have other projects still on the side of customs, also the EU, which have to be financed. And there is also personal and so on and so on. So you see, yeah, back to one of the questions or one of the remarks from Nanne, feasibility, no comment. So, role of PCSs, and then I'm ready. First of all, the sarcastic question into the direction of the Commission. Do you want to be a member of IPCSA because you're stealing our idea of operating a PCS now only for customs? But of course, to put that sarcastic viewpoint away, at the end of the day, we will act as external data providers. We have to find now our position in that game. They talk also in some papers about us that we are, of course, one of the crucial data providers to them. But again, it has to be worked out together with them in workshops or in rounds of discussions. How we are really connecting ourselves to the whole EU data hub and what is then really what they expect from our side, plus what they are willing to play back as status and information and events. So this is really what I also put as the main questions at the end when it comes to that cooperation willingness in the future, that we say, okay, the issues are on the table, means event and status management, the redesign of process flows for the PCSs. That is really a question what we have to bring on the table. I don't know how far we are willing to go with IPCSA, but maybe that is a good idea to go in a kind of internal workshop or the internal work group to find out what differences we really have in our process flows to bring that really in front of the Commission and say, okay, guys, no, there is a difference between Germany and Spain, and it looks like this. So sorry to tell you, we can't really accept that you think we all play a harmonized role in that. And as last but not least, this should be a momentum now to collect that knowledge across our industry a little bit more and create a clearer understanding of the processes on the side of the Commission. Whatever is then at the end and however we are going to exchange the data, at the end of the day, it's crucial, I would say, to have not only a release information sent out to a shipping line. We need somehow also a clear interaction with customs, and when I say customs, then also the local customs administrations, because I'm pretty sure that also in the future there will be a lot of national and local activities, even if we have an EU data hub as a central tool in place. That's it from my side. I'm nearly on time, even that we had some technical issues.